Hey, what's going on, guys? Alex here, and it's Monday, so it's Freshwater Monday. We're gonna go over some good topics today, or pretty much the topic. It's gonna be frogs. Summertime, obviously, anywhere throughout the United States, you're gonna find heavy cover or just areas where obviously there's frogs there, and that's one of the main forage for fish this time of the year. And we're gonna go over the different styles of frogs that we have available in the market, or what we can use really out there in different scenarios. And mainly right now we're going to talk about just hollow body. So let's go over here and show you what a hollow body frog is. As you can see, what a hollow body frog is pretty much, it's a hollow body rubber or different materials, I guess, that they have nowadays, and they have that hook, that double hook going through the actual frog. So whenever the fish bites down into it, you're going to have those hooks sticking out and penetrate the fish, obviously, with those hooks there. So let's go over the different styles we have here. As you can see here, we have a couple different styles. We have little frogs now that have those little blades on them now. We'll call it more of like a dangle style bait, like frog hollow body in a way. Classic popping style frogs. It's almost like a popper, and they will actually walk a little bit. We have frogs now that have those legs, kicking tails, that will make a lot of commotion in the water, so you can actually attract some fish with that. We have little finesse style frogs now for obviously smaller fish or more finesse applications. Now these guys here are not going to be necessarily frogs, but they're hollow body style baits. As you can see here, I'm sure you guys have seen the Whopper Plopper, so that's a prop style hollow body, so you can actually throw this wherever you have heavy vegetation. And then you have walking style hollow bodies. Obviously we have frogs in different style baits, for example like the mouse. The mouse there is going to be pretty much like a spook. It's going to be side to side action, and it's actually going to move pretty well, so as this sunfish. Now, one of the reasons why they have all these different profiles, obviously to match the hatch to whatever area you're fishing. But let's go over some of the areas and I guess scenarios where you will use either one of these frogs. So we'll start with this guy here. Now this guy here has become really big in the snakehead world. So if you're fishing for snakeheads, but bass obviously will also hit them. And the reason why they have the blades is, once you let it sit there, just in the spot without moving it so much, you're obviously going to have these sticks kind of dangle down. Once you twitch it side to side, it will do a slide side to side movement, and those blades will actually create reflection under the water. Now most people will say, why does it matter? So if the fish is looking to the bait, it can actually key into the actual frog because of that flash. Now when you reel this in slowly, you have kind of like almost like a prop style motion with those two little blades moving in the back. So this is pretty much just going to add flash. It's going to help the fish kind of key into the bait a little better. Now a popping style bait here like that, it's pretty much going to be really useful throughout the whole general area. And the reason why is you have that cone, the popping mouth there, and you can actually make it pop a lot of water. So you can use it just like a popper and just pop it. Whenever you have like choppy conditions or really aggressive fish, you want to use something like this. You can also slow it down and just kind of do a slight side to side action. Of course, these guys can make really hard pops, and like I said, if it's choppy, that's the way to go. And then if you see fish busting everywhere and really being really active, one of my favorites. This one here is also going to be one of those scenarios when those fish are really active. So either or, you can use a popping frog or use one of these frogs that have the little legs on them. This is going to work almost like a bus bait, except you can actually stop it in place and it will sit there, and those fish can actually sit there and look at it instead of like having a bus bait where it will just sink down. This will actually sit in place. So cast it out, reel it in, make it stop in certain areas over top of like grass edges or just in holes between the grass, and you'll see how effective that works. Little tiny finesse frogs. Now that's going to be a killer for any area that you have smaller fish. When you're pond fishing, you know, that's going to be one of those guys that will work really well. But also remember, big fish like small baits too. So whenever you're throwing frogs and you see the smaller forage or a super heavy pressure lake that everybody's throwing topwater already, downsize, that will actually help you catch some fish. Obviously a mix of fish, but don't be surprised if you get some big ins on that. Prop style baits. As you can see, most of these will have almost like a shad profile. So if you're fishing a lake or an area where there's a lot of shad or any kind of like actual bait fish like that, you can actually throw this out in the middle and just of a pond and reel it in, or a lake, kind of work the grass edges, and this will make just that a noise that everybody loves. It's not as strong as a whopper plopper, but it will help drive in some baits, some bites. And you can see that that's kind of the same thing as that, just different looks and different noise. So both of these will have different noises. So definitely one of those things to kind of keep an eye on, and a lot narrower profile on these guys. Now these two right here are going to be great baits for any areas where you have a lot of sunfish. Sometimes, you know, you'll see a lot of bass, especially during the spawn or post spawn, feeding on bluegill, and most lakes that's their main forage. So throwing that out and walking it and letting it sit for a little while, making it look like an injured bluegill, will work really well for those scenarios. And this guy here, pretty much whenever you have settle, you know, conditions like flat calm days, and you can actually walk this really well, you'll be surprised how well that works. I like to use this a lot, once again, when I'm in a high pressure area. There's a lot of people fishing the other style baits, and I have semi-flat conditions, because you can actually walk this really well, and it just gives it a different profile, so they'll key into that bait really well. So that's where you want to use those and what each one of them does. Obviously colors will change depending on the area that you're fishing. More natural colors obviously for the frog style baits, and then if you're looking for that one color that will work kind of like everywhere in general, black's a good color. Something else, if you're using these, I like to just go straight braid for this general area. Since we don't have super heavy cover, Power Pro 30 pound works great for most scenarios around here in the middle to upper Chesapeake Bay. Of course, you can go a little bit higher, and I will say 40 and 50 is fine. Some guys who are fishing super heavy cover, you can go up to 65, for example, in the Potomac in certain areas. Whatever fits your general area where you're going to be fishing, obviously you want to match it up to. So if you're fishing more scarce grass and lighter cover, 30 is fine. If you're going to some heavy cover, I will say stick with that 50 to 65 pound. Rod that I like to use this on, I like to go a little bit longer for a little bit more leverage and distance. So 7.5, 7.6s, medium heavies, 2 heavies, depending on the cover, will work perfect for all of these. So just a couple tips there for hollow body baits now that we're into the summer. And remember, there's always a spot and a place for all of these, so you can never have too many of them. So that's it for this Monday's freshwater tips, and we'll see you guys next week.